3 weeks after the first shot was fired, Captain Maria Santos guided her cargo freighter through the heart of the Galactic Council's capital system. The Lucky Strike looked mostly like its old self again. Those sensors could detect improvements that made the ship simultaneously more and less than it appeared to be. Around her, the most heavily defended star system in the galaxy waited in absolute silence. Orbital defense platforms that could destroy fleets hung powerless in space. Automated weapon systems that had protected the capital for 10,000 years sat dormant. 47 different species had ordered their most advanced military technology to stand down rather than risk what humans might learn from it. This is Captain Santos, requesting permission to approach the council station, Maria announced over the general communication frequency. The response came immediately from Admiral Zixter himself. Captain Santos, you are cleared to approach. All weapons systems are offline. All defensive measures have been deactivated. Thanks, Admiral. I'll try not to bump into anything. Maria guided her ship toward the massive station at the system center. Behind her, just barely visible at the edge of sensor range, 3 human escort vessels followed at a respectful distance. Each escort was smaller than the Lucky Strike, but their presence made every alien military commander in the system break out in whatever passed for cold sweat among their species. The Lucky Strike docked at the station's diplomatic port without incident. Maria walked through corridors lined with representatives from civilizations that had ruled the galaxy since before Earth's sun was born. They watched her pass with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright terror. The council's main chamber had been reconfigured for the occasion. Instead of the usual circular table, a simple podium stood in the center of the room. Every seat in the massive chamber was filled. Every major species in the galaxy had sent their highest-ranking officials to witness what everyone hoped would be humanity's terms for peace. Maria walked to the podium carrying a tablet computer and a cup of coffee in a travel mug that read, "Galaxy's okayest cargo." "Hauler, good morning, everyone," she began, looking around at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. "Thanks for gathering on such short notice. I know some of you traveled a long way to be here." Ambassador Quox, representing the Eternal Ones, spoke first. "Captain Santos, what are humanity's terms for ending this conflict?" Maria consulted her tablet. "Well, we've put together what we think is a pretty fair agreement. Nothing too complicated." She activated the chamber's main display system. Text appeared in the air above the gathered representatives, translated simultaneously into 437 different languages. First item, mutual recognition of sovereignty. We'll recognize your government authority over your space. You recognize ours over human space. Pretty standard stuff. Admiral Zixter's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a shade that indicated cautious relief. That seems reasonable. Second item, open trade agreements. We've got some things you might find interesting. You've got some things we'd like to try. Fair exchange, mutual benefit, that sort of thing. Crystal Song of War chimed softly. What sort of things might humans wish to trade? Maria smiled. Oh, mostly improvements. We've learned a lot about your technology in the past few weeks. We think we can help you make some upgrades. Better efficiency, longer lifespans for your equipment, that kind of thing. The Nexari Collective spoke through their 7 mouths in unison. What would humans want in return? Learning opportunities, mostly. We're curious about some of the things you've discovered. Ancient history, deep space phenomena, that sort of thing. We like learning new stuff. The chamber fell silent as representatives tried to process what they were hearing. Humanity's terms for peace were normal, reasonable, the sort of thing any 2 civilizations might negotiate. Third item, Maria continued, cooperative research initiatives. We think there's a lot we can learn from each other. Shared science projects, joint exploration missions, collaborative studies. Ambassador Qualks leaned forward. Captain Santos, these terms are surprisingly generous. Given your demonstrated capabilities, you could demand much more. Maria looked genuinely puzzled. Like what? We don't want to rule anybody. We just want to be left alone to explore and learn things. What would we do with a galactic empire? You could have unlimited resources, Admiral Zixter pointed out. Tribute from thousands of worlds. Absolute power over billions of beings. That sounds like a lot of paperwork, Maria replied. Also, governing people who don't want to be governed seems like it would be really annoying. We've got better things to do. The luminal's text appeared in the air. What things are better than absolute power? Learning how the universe works, Maria said immediately. Building cool stuff. Exploring places no one has ever been. Making friends with interesting people. She gestured around the chamber. Like all of you. Ambassador Qualks stood up slowly. Captain Santos, may I ask you a question? Sure. Why did you come here alone? Your species could have sent a fleet. An army. Diplomats with extensive support staff. Maria shrugged. Because I was asked to. Also, someone needs to deliver the medical supplies to the Zephyrian colonies on the way back. Might as well be efficient about it. The chamber erupted in quiet conversations as representatives tried to understand what they were witnessing. The most powerful military force in galactic history was being represented by a cargo hauler who was worried about making her delivery schedule. Are there any questions about the terms? Maria asked. Admiral Zixter raised one clawed hand. Captain Santos, these agreements speak of cooperation and mutual benefit. But what assurance do we have that humans will not use their capabilities to enforce their will? Maria considered the question seriously. You mean, how do you know we won't decide to conquer everything anyway? Yes, because conquering people is mean, and we don't like being mean unless someone makes us. Maria paused, then added, also, it would interfere with the learning. Hard to study how civilizations develop naturally if you're busy controlling them. She activated the display system again. Oh, one more thing. While I was flying over here, we made a small modification to your sun. Nothing major, just improved its fusion efficiency by about 12%. Should give your homeworld better weather and extend the star's life by a few billion years. Consider it a friendship gift. The chamber fell completely silent. Through the station's viewports, representatives could see their sun burning with a slightly different color than it had for the past billion years. You modified our star, Ambassador Qualks said quietly. Just a little bit. We were careful. All the calculations checked out. No harmful effects. Just better performance. Admiral Zixter stared at Maria Santos as the full implications hit him. Humans had just casually demonstrated that they could modify stellar mechanics as easily as adjusting a thermostat. They had done it as a gift, without being asked, and presented it as a minor courtesy. Captain Santos, he said carefully, if humans can modify stars, what else can you modify? Maria smiled and finished her coffee. Admiral, we're still figuring that out. So far, we haven't found anything we can't improve, at least a little bit. The treaty was signed 3 hours later. Not because the terms required extensive negotiation, but because it took that long for representatives to stop staring at their improved sun and focus on the paperwork. The war that every galactic strategist had calculated would last thousands of years was officially ended by a cargo hauler who needed to make a supply delivery. Admiral Zixter watched through his ship's viewports as the Lucky Strike departed the station. The human vessel moved through space with casual confidence, occasionally phasing through dimensions that his instruments couldn't detect. leaving behind a galaxy that had been fundamentally changed in less than a month. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Human ships are beginning to appear in every major star system." "Are they taking control?" "No, sir. They appear to be delivering things. Medical supplies, improved technology, infrastructure upgrades. They're treating the entire galaxy like a very large supply route." Admiral Zixter settled back in his command chair and tried to understand what his civilization had just experienced. They had tried to conquer a primitive species and instead had been adopted by something that treated the laws of physics as suggestions and the entire galaxy as a neighborhood that needed better maintenance. The war was over. Humanity had won not by destroying their enemies, but by making their enemies better than they had ever imagined possible. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Admiral Zixter couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly what the humans had intended from the beginning. Admiral Zixter sat in his command chair and tried to understand what was happening. Around him, his bridge crew worked at stations that no longer looked familiar. The humans had improved their systems, and now his ship's technology was beyond anything his species had ever imagined. The tactical display showed a battle that wasn't really a battle anymore. Human ships moved through space in patterns that seemed to ignore basic physics. They phased in and out of dimensions his instruments couldn't measure. They fired weapons that didn't destroy targets so much as convince them to become something else entirely. "Status report," he ordered. His operations officer, a Nexari collective node, spoke through 7 mouths in perfect harmony. "Sir, we have engaged human forces across 17 star systems. In every case, initial success has been followed by immediate human adaptation and overwhelming response. Define overwhelming response. In the Kepler system, human ships began incorporating our gravitic manipulation technology. Within 2 hours, they were using artificial gravity wells to bend space around their vessels. They can now appear to be in multiple locations simultaneously." Admiral Zixter felt his scales shifting to colors of deep anxiety. "Continue. In the Vega sector, humans captured several Zephyrian crystal ships. They reverse-engineered our quantum harmonics and began using sound as a weapon. They can now make enemy ships resonate until their atomic bonds dissolve. And in the Centauri region? That's where it gets unusual, sir." The Admiral waited for an explanation that he was certain he wouldn't like. The humans captured a luminal energy being. Instead of studying it, they asked it questions. The luminal, apparently curious about human methods, began teaching them energy manipulation techniques. Within hours, human ships were converting matter directly to energy and back again at will. Admiral Zixter stood up so quickly that his command chair toppled backward. "They convinced a luminal to teach them voluntarily?" "Yes, sir. The luminal reports that humans ask very interesting questions about the fundamental nature of reality. Questions that our species never thought to ask." The main display activated, showing a transmission from the human ship that had started this entire conflict. Captain Santos appeared on screen, but her cargo vessel now looked like something out of a fever dream. It had grown to the size of a small moon and seemed to be made of materials that shifted between solid matter and pure energy. "Admiral Zixter," Captain Santos said cheerfully, "I wanted to thank you for the learning opportunity. This has been the most educational day we've had in years." "Captain Santos, what have you done to your ship?" "Oh, this old thing? We made some improvements. Turns out your luminal friends have some fascinating ideas about matter-energy conversion. And the Zephyrians know some neat tricks with quantum mechanics. The Nexari showed us how to process information at the speed of thought." Admiral Zixter looked at his sensor readings again. According to his instruments, Captain Santa's ship was simultaneously a cargo freighter, an energy being, a quantum computer, and something his sensors couldn't identify at all. That's impossible. You cannot be all of those things at once. Why not? Captain Santos asked. Who made that rule? Before Admiral Zixter could answer, his science officer approached with a report that made his scales turn completely transparent with shock. Sir, we've completed our analysis of human technology adaptation patterns. Report. They're not just copying our technology. They're understanding the fundamental principles behind it, and then improving those principles. When they captured our energy weapons, they didn't just build better energy weapons. They figured out why energy works the way it does, and then made energy work better. Admiral Zixter stared at the science officer. That's not possible. You cannot improve the fundamental laws of physics. Sir, with respect, the humans appear to disagree with that assessment. A new voice joined the conversation as Ambassador Qualks appeared on the communication screen. The ancient being looked exactly the same as she had during the council meeting, but her expression carried a weight of terrible understanding. Admiral, she said quietly, you need to order a complete withdrawal immediately. Ambassador, we cannot retreat from a primitive species. They are not primitive, Ambassador Qualks replied. We are. We have spent millions of years becoming very good at using the tools we were given. Humans spend their time figuring out how to build better tools. Admiral Zixter activated a private communication channel to Ambassador Qualks. Explain. Every species in the galaxy developed along the same pattern. We learned to use fire, then metals, then energy, then quantum mechanics. We became experts at using existing principles. But humans are different. How different? They don't just learn to use existing principles. They learn to modify those principles. They don't ask, how does this work? They ask, why does this work this way? And how can we make it work better? Admiral Zixter felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. What are you saying? I'm saying that humans don't just adapt to their environment. They adapt their environment to themselves. And now they're adapting the laws of physics. The tactical display suddenly changed, showing something that made every being on the bridge step backward in instinctive fear. A human ship had just appeared next to their sun. Not near the sun, next to it, close enough to touch its surface. Impossible, Admiral Zixter whispered. Nothing can survive that close to a star. Captain Santa's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, we figured out how to make friends with your star. Turns out stellar fusion is just another engineering problem. We've made some improvements to your sun's efficiency. Should increase its lifespan by about 6 billion years. The ship's sensors confirmed what Captain Santos had said. The star's output had been modified, stabilized, and improved. Humans had just casually adjusted a nuclear fusion reaction involving more mass than 1 million planets. You modified our sun, Admiral Zixter said weakly. Just a little bit. We thought you might appreciate the upgrade. Don't worry, all the planets in your system will still get the right amount of energy. We calculated everything very carefully. Admiral Zixter looked around his bridge at the faces of beings from species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Every expression showed the same thing. The sudden, terrible understanding that they had just met something completely beyond their comprehension. Admiral, his communications officer announced, we're receiving surrender requests from 37 Council fleets across the galaxy. Surrender requests? Yes, sir. Fleet commanders are asking for permission to surrender to human forces before the humans decide to improve anything else. Admiral Zixter sat down heavily in his command chair. In less than a day, the greatest military force in galactic history had been reduced to begging for mercy from a species they had considered primitive cargo haulers. Captain Santos, he said into the communication system. Yes, Admiral? We surrender. The battle began exactly as Admiral Zixter expected. His destroyers opened fire on the human cargo ship, weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds focusing their energy on one small, outdated vessel. The lucky strike should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The ship simply wasn't there anymore. Where did it go? Admiral Zixter demanded. His sensor operator checked the readings 3 times. Unknown, sir. It appears to have folded somehow. Before the Admiral could respond, the human ship reappeared behind his destroyer squadron. But it wasn't the same ship. The hull looked similar, but energy readings showed technology that shouldn't exist. Weapons that had never been seen before. Propulsion systems that violated known physics. Impossible, Admiral Zixter muttered. They cannot have improved their technology in 30 seconds. The transformed cargo ship fired once. The shot passed through the Council destroyer's shields as if they weren't there, then did something that made the ship's atomic structure simply stop being organized. The destroyer didn't explode. It just became a cloud of individual atoms, perfectly harmless, but completely useless. All ships, target the human vessel. Admiral Zixter ordered. 40-7,000 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could crack planets, missiles that could destroy moons, and exotic weapons that manipulated space itself, all focused on the single human ship. The cargo vessel disappeared again. This time, it took 2 minutes to return. When it did, Admiral Zixter saw something that made his scales turn white with shock. The human ship had somehow grown. It was now 3 times its original size, and sensor readings showed it was manufacturing something inside its expanded hull. Sir, his communications officer announced nervously. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Captain Santa's voice filled the command center. Admiral, this is really interesting technology you've got here. Mind if we borrow some ideas? Admiral Zixter found his voice. What have you done to your ship? Oh, we upgraded it a little. Your weapons gave us some neat ideas for improvement. Thanks for that. The Admiral looked at his sensor readings again. According to his instruments, the human ship was now incorporating technology from every weapon that had hit it. Zephyrian energy manipulation, Nexari quantum processing, luminal plasma containment. Technologies that had taken millions of years to develop, being analyzed and improved in real time. This is impossible, he announced. No species can adapt technology that quickly. Really? Captain Santos sounded genuinely surprised. Seems pretty straightforward to us. You shoot at us. We figure out how your weapons work, then we build something better. Basic engineering. Admiral Zixter's ship shook as something hit it. Not a weapon, something much stranger. His hull began to change color, shifting through the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Whatever the humans had fired at him was rewriting his ship's atomic structure at the molecular level. Sir, his engineering officer reported. They've somehow improved our armor. It's now approximately 4,000% more efficient. They improved our armor? Yes, sir. Also our life support systems. And our computer networks. And our engines. Sir, our ship is now significantly better than it was 5 minutes ago. Admiral Zixter stared at his displays in growing horror. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were upgrading everything they touched. Every shot fired at them became an opportunity to learn. Every technology they encountered became a resource for improvement. More human ships began arriving. But they weren't coming through normal space travel. They were simply appearing, materializing out of nothing as if the universe was manufacturing them on demand. Each new vessel looked different from the last, incorporating design elements that shouldn't work together but somehow did. Admiral, his tactical officer announced. Human reinforcements continue to arrive. Current count is... This can't be right. What's the count? It keeps changing. Every time I finish counting, there are more ships. And they're all different. It's like they're being built as they arrive. Admiral Zixter activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance. Do not engage human vessels. Do not fire weapons. Do not activate any systems they might be able to analyze. But it was too late. Across the battle zone, human ships were appearing faster than his fleet could retreat. Each one showed clear signs of having incorporated and improved upon Council technology. Ships that moved like Zephyrian crystals but hit like Nexori dreadnoughts. Vessels that phased in and out of reality like luminal energy beings but maintained solid physical presence. "Sir?" "Incoming transmission from Earth," his communications officer announced. A new voice came through the speakers. This one was older, calmer, but carried an authority that made everyone in the command center listen carefully. "Admiral Zixter, this is Director Chun of Earth Defense Coordination. I understand you've met Captain Santos. Director Chun, your ships are using impossible technology." "Wow, that's the thing about humans," Director Chun replied. "We don't really believe in impossible. We prefer to think of things as temporarily difficult." Admiral Zixter looked at his tactical display. Human ships now outnumbered his fleet by 3-1. And they were still arriving. "How are you building ships so quickly?" "We're not building them," Director Chen explained. "We're growing them. Every time one of our vessels gets destroyed, we analyze what happened and design improvements. Then we manufacture the improved version and send it out. The whole process takes about 6 minutes. 6 minutes to design and build a starship? Wow, we've been working on improving our manufacturing processes lately. Last month, it took us 20 minutes. We think we can get it down to 3 minutes by next week." Admiral Zixter realized that his fleet was no longer fighting a battle. They were participating in a research project. Every weapon fired, every technology deployed, every tactical formation used was being studied, analyzed, improved upon, and incorporated into an ever-growing human fleet. "This is insane," he announced. "No species develops this quickly." "Oh, we're not developing," Director Chung corrected. "We're adapting." Big difference. Development takes millions of years. Adaptation happens whenever it needs to happen. A new alarm began sounding on Admiral Zixter's ship. His engineering officer looked pale as he delivered the report. "Sir, the humans have somehow accessed our manufacturing systems. They're building improvements to our own ships. Our dreadnoughts are now approximately 10 times more powerful than they were an hour ago. They're improving our ships?" "Yes, sir. Also, they've left us a message." Admiral Zixter sighed. "What does it say?" "Thank you for sharing. We've learned a lot. Please enjoy the upgrades. They should help you fight more effectively against your next enemy." Admiral Zixter stared at the tactical display showing thousands of human ships. Each one an impossible combination of technologies that should never work together. His own fleet, now substantially improved by human modifications. Waited for orders, he no longer knew how to give dot in 3 hours. The humans had gone from primitive cargo haulers to masters of technology his civilization had spent millions of years developing, and they were still learning. The cargo freighter Lucky Strike drifted through space near the human colony of New Geneva. Captain Maria Santos sat in her pilot's chair, sipping coffee from a metal cup and reading reports on her tablet. The ship was old and battered, held together with spare parts and stubborn determination. Its hull bore the scars of a dozen asteroid mining operations and twice as many emergency repairs. Maria had been hauling cargo between human colonies for 15 years. She knew every space lane, every asteroid field, every shortcut between the outer settlements. Today should have been just another routine supply run to New Geneva. Food supplies, medical equipment, machine parts for the terraforming stations. Instead, her proximity alarms were screaming. "Captain," her navigator called from across the small bridge. "You need to see this." Maria looked up from her tablet and immediately understood why her crew sounded nervous. Through the main viewport, space itself seemed to have changed color. What had been empty darkness now glowed with the light of thousands of ships. The Galactic Council fleet stretched across the star system like a metal galaxy. Massive dreadnoughts the size of cities floated alongside sleek destroyers that moved like hunting sharks. Crystalline vessels caught and reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy beings flew in formations that defied physics, leaving trails of pure light behind them. "How many ships?" Maria asked on her weapons officer checked his instruments twice before answering. "Computer says 47,000. But that can't be right." "Computer's right," Maria confirmed, checking her own sensors. "Maybe more. I'm seeing ships I don't even recognize." The communications array came to life with a signal that made every human ship in the system stop what they were doing. The voice that emerged spoke perfect English, but carried harmonics that no human throat could produce. "Human vessels. This is Admiral Zixter of the Galactic Council. Combined fleet. You will cease all operations and prepare to receive an official diplomatic message." Maria activated her ship's transmitter. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the Lucky Strike. We hear you, Admiral. What can we do for you?" The response came immediately. "Captain Santos, you will serve as the official representative of your species for the following communication." Maria almost laughed. "Admiral, I'm a cargo hauler. I deliver supplies and sometimes haul passengers. I think you want to talk to our government representatives. You are present. You will serve as representative. This is not negotiable." Maria shrugged and poured herself another cup of coffee. "All right, Admiral. I represent humanity. What's the message?" Space around the Lucky Strike suddenly filled with light. A massive holographic projection appeared, showing Admiral Zixter in what was clearly the command center of a ship larger than most human cities. The Admiral looked like a cross between a dragon and a shark, covered in scales that shifted color as he moved. "Humans," Admiral Zixter began, his voice carrying across every communication frequency in the system. "You have expanded in the space claimed by the Galactic Council. You have built colonies on worlds designated for other purposes. You have refused to acknowledge Council authority." Maria nodded. "That's right." The Admiral seemed surprised by her casual response. "You admit to these violations?" "Well, we didn't know about your council when we started building colonies," Maria said. "And once we found out, we decided we weren't interested in joining." "The Galactic Council governs all spacefaring civilizations," Admiral Zixter announced. "This is the natural order. This has been the law for 10 million years." "Sounds boring," Maria replied. The Admiral's scales shifted to a darker color. "You will accept Council governance. You will relocate your populations to the reservation worlds we have prepared. You will submit your technology for review and limitation. You will accept the guidance of older, wiser species." Maria was quiet for a moment, considering the offer. Around her, the crew watched nervously as thousands of alien warships waited for her answer. "That's very generous," she finally said. "But we'll have to decline." "This is not a request," Admiral Zixter said. "This is an order. You are a primitive species. You lack the wisdom to govern yourselves. You will accept our guidance or face the consequences." Maria set down her coffee cup and leaned back in her chair. "Admiral, let me explain something about humans. We've been governing ourselves for a long time. We've made mistakes, sure. Big ones. But we learned from them. We figured out how to work together, mostly. We built something pretty good out here. Your technology is primitive, the Admiral interrupted. Your ships are crude. Your weapons are ineffective. You cannot possibly resist the combined might of 47 advanced civilizations. You're probably right about that, Maria agreed. But here's the thing. We don't really care. Admiral Zixther's scales shifted again, this time to a color that suggested confusion. You do not understand. We possess weapons that can destroy stars. Ships that can travel faster than light. Technology your species cannot comprehend. I'm sure you do, Maria said. Want to see something neat? Before the Admiral could respond, Maria activated her ship's mining lasers. The Lucky Strike wasn't a warship, but 15 years of asteroid mining had given it some impressive industrial equipment. The mining lasers locked onto a nearby asteroid and began carving Dot in less than 5 minutes. Maria had carved a perfect replica of Admiral Zixther's face into the asteroid's surface, complete with moving scales and an expression of growing annoyance. Nice artwork, Admiral Zixther admitted reluctantly. But it proves nothing. It proves that humans can be pretty creative when we want to be, Maria said. It also proves that we're not impressed by your fleet. The Admiral's scales went bright red. You dare mock the combined power of the galaxy's greatest civilizations? I'm not mocking anything, Maria replied. I'm just saying that threats don't really work on humans. We tend to get stubborn when people try to push us around. Admiral Zixther raised one clawed hand. In response, a Council destroyer fired a weapon that completely vaporized the asteroid Maria had been carving. The explosion lit up the entire star system. That demonstration was for your benefit, the Admiral announced. That weapon represents the least powerful armament in my fleet. Submit now, or watch your colonies burn. Maria watched the expanding cloud of vaporized rock for a moment. Then she smiled. Thanks for the fireworks display, Admiral. Very pretty. Now, unless you have something else to discuss, I've got supplies to deliver to New Geneva. The communications channel went silent. Across the system, 47,000 alien warships hung motionless in space. Their commanders trying to understand what had just happened. Admiral Zixther had offered ultimate surrender terms to a primitive species. He had demonstrated overwhelming power. He had shown them the futility of resistance. And the human response was to thank him for the fireworks and ask for directions. Home dot in 10,000 years of military service. Admiral Zixther had never encountered anything like it. All ships, he finally announced. Prepare for combat operations. Target the human cargo vessel first. Show them the price of defiance. Maria Santos finished her coffee and started up her ship's engines. Well, boys, she told her crew, looks like this is going to be more interesting than a usual supply run. The massive space station floated in the darkness between 3 dying stars. Its metal surface stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. Inside the station's central chamber, beings from across the galaxy gathered around a circular table that could have held a small city. Admiral Kethval adjusted his breathing apparatus as he looked around the room. His species had ruled space for over 50,000 years, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. The crystalline beings from the Zephyr system hummed softly to each other, their diamond-like bodies catching the artificial light. Across from them, the Nexari hive mind spoke through 7 different mouths at once, creating a chorus of identical voices that made everyone else uncomfortable. The luminals had no physical form at all. They existed as pure energy, contained within special chambers that let them participate in the meeting. When they spoke, their words appeared as floating text in the air above their containers. We are here because of the humans, Admiral Kethval announced. His voice carried the weight of authority that came from commanding fleets across a dozen star systems. They have refused our latest diplomatic message. They will not accept council law. They will not move to the reservation worlds we have prepared for them. A Zephyrian named Crystal Song of War chimed like broken glass. Perhaps they do not understand our power. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are weak. The Nexari Collective responded through their 7 mouths. We have studied their history. Humans are violent. They fight each other constantly. They have destroyed their own kind for thousands of years. They know only war. Admiral Kethful nodded slowly. He had read the reports too. Humanity had only left their home world 300 years ago. In galactic terms, that made them babies. Most species took millions of years to develop space travel. Humans had somehow done it in a fraction of the time. But their technology showed their inexperience. Their ships are made of simple metals, reported tech analyst Warren, a slug-like being whose species specialized in studying other races' technology. They use chemical rockets for propulsion. Their weapons fire solid metal projectiles. They have no energy shields, no quantum drives, no gravitic manipulation systems. The luminal's text appeared in the air. Their rapid development is concerning. Most species require millions of years to achieve spaceflight. Yes, but look at what they achieved, Admiral Kethful said. Crude fusion reactors, basic laser systems, primitive computers. They are clever, but they lack the fundamental understanding that comes from proper evolution. Crystal Song of War hummed a low note of agreement. The Vortek Rebellion lasted 847 years. They had much better technology than the humans. The Synthesis Wars took 3,000 years to resolve, and both sides possessed weapons that could crack planets. Tech analyst Vorn slid closer to the table, leaving a trail of slime behind him. I have calculated probable war duration against human forces. Given their current technology level and expansion rate, a conflict would last approximately 2,000 years. Maybe 3,000 if they prove more adaptable than expected. The Nexari Collective spoke again. We must prepare for extended campaign. Humans breed quickly. They spread to new worlds faster than most species. They will be difficult to contain. Admiral Kethfall brought up a holographic display showing the current state of human space. 47 colony worlds spread across 32 star systems. Not many by galactic standards, but troubling because of how quickly they had been established. Notice how they choose worlds, he pointed to the display. They do not pick the easy ones. They terraform hostile planets. They build cities on worlds with poisonous atmospheres. They seem to prefer challenges. A new voice spoke from the corner of the chamber. Ambassador Quox had remained silent until now. Her species, the Eternal Ones, had existed longer than any other race in the galaxy. They had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. You are thinking like generals preparing for the last war, Ambassador Quox said. Her voice carried the weight of 10 million years of experience. You speak of duration and technology. You calculate tonnage and firepower. But you do not ask the right questions. Admiral Kethful turned to face her. What questions should we ask? Why did they develop so quickly? Why do they choose the difficult worlds? Why do their ships look so different from anything we have ever seen? Ambassador Quox moved closer to the holographic display. Their technology is primitive, yes, but it is also completely original. They did not follow any known development pattern. The chamber fell silent. Most species developed along predictable paths. First fire, then metal, then chemistry, then physics, then quantum mechanics, then space travel. It was the natural order. It had been the same for every species for millions of years. They skipped steps, tech analyst Vorn admitted reluctantly. According to our models, they should not have achieved space travel for another 50,000 years. Their society was too unstable. Their technology too primitive. Crystal song of war chimed softly. Perhaps they are simply lucky. Genetic accident. Random mutation that increased their intelligence. The luminal's text appeared again. Luck does not account for such rapid advancement. There is something else. Admiral Kethful had heard enough debate. Decisions needed to be made. Regardless of how they developed, we know what they are now. A young, aggressive species with primitive technology and no respect for galactic law. We have dealt with such species before. He activated the chamber's main display system. Battle plans filled the air around them. Fleet movements. Resource allocations. Defensive positions. The combined military might of 47 advanced civilizations, organized and ready for deployment. The Kepler Defense Network will be fully activated. All ancient weapon systems brought online. Reserve fleets moved to forward positions. We will offer them one final chance to accept our terms. When they refuse, we will remind them why younger species respect their elders. The Nexari Collective spoke through all 7 mouths simultaneously. How long until we begin? The ultimatum will be delivered in 72 hours, Admiral Kethful announced. When they reject it, we will commence standard pacification protocols. Full fleet deployment. Systematic destruction of military assets. Occupation of primary population centers. Ambassador Quilks shook her head slowly. You still do not understand. This will not be like other wars. Why? Admiral Kethful demanded. Because they are human? Because they developed quickly. They are still primitive. They still lack our experience. Because, Ambassador Quilks said quietly, in 10 million years of existence, non-white people have learned to recognize something dangerous when we see it. And humans are the most dangerous thing we have ever encountered. The chamber erupted in argument, but Admiral Kethful was no longer listening. Orders needed to be given. Fleets needed to be positioned. The galaxy's greatest military force needed to prepare for what every calculation suggested would be a very long war.